our children really do deserve better. They deserve better than crumbling schools. They deserve better than being taught in porter cabins for unspecified periods of time. Every child deserves a qualified teacher, and so we really need investment from government. So it's Daniel Kebede and I'm the General Secretary of the National Education Union.
1 week in, Daniel, and you've had probably one of the biggest crises facing school buildings. I mean, how have you found it all?
I mean, it has been a baptism of fire, but this crisis, the writing was on the wall decades ago. Of course, RAAC is a material used to rebuild post-war Britain. 50s, 60s and 70s schools were built, and it was, not long after that they recognised that it had a 30-year shelf life. Unfortunately, we've had over a decade of failure from government to address a very serious issue.
Does it worry you when you hear, the government saying that they're going to put this cost potentially onto schools? Is there enough money, is there enough funding in schools to accommodate that extra pay?
Well, the issue of schools having to take it out of existing budgets is preposterous, but also the idea that it can come out of existing DFE budgets is a real problem as well. Building schools for the future, which would have replaced every secondary school by now and got through most of the primaries, was a £55 billion project. It wasn't, small money, and that's the sort of investment that we need to see from government now.
Your members, have they reported feeling unsafe in any of these buildings?
Well, of course, there is a lot of concern from our members, but the primary concern of our members is actually the children that they educate. And what we have at the moment is 90% of schools still containing asbestos, and when you combine asbestos and crumbling concrete, you're exposing children to a level of risk that is well beyond anything acceptable.
And also, out of those school budgets, some of those schools have had to accommodate the pay increase as well. What does it look like at the moment? With an average school with their budget, are they having to make cutbacks on things the children might need?
Well, there has been a funding crisis that is also part of this 13-year of Conservative rule, which is an immense problem. And it's, there was some extra money given with the pay award, but it's not enough. And what we actually need to see is the government to commit to investing the OECD average of 5% of GDP. At the moment, our analysis is saying that we invest around 4.19% of GDP in education. Now, that 0.81% might not sound a lot, but what that really is a £20 billion shortfall.
And then you're looking at next year getting an increase on those budgets, 2.6, 2.7%, wasn't it? Is that adequate?
That's what Nick Gibb said in July, and of course we're going to press the government to increase that at the autumn statement. The idea that budgets can just increase 2.7% again is just not acceptable. It's not only below inflation, but we still need to see a correction in teachers' pay. Teacher pay has reduced by 23% in the last decade. A Scottish teacher in their 6th year earns about £9,000 or more a year than an English teacher in their 6th year. And it's not just about fairness, but it really is the only way to address the crisis in recruitment and retention as well. The reality is 40,000 teachers left the profession last year. The government are on target to miss their recruitment targets this year by 50%. And what we have at the moment is over 1 million children being taught in classes of 31 or more. Our children really do deserve better. They deserve better than crumbling schools. They deserve better than being taught in porter cabins for unspecified periods of time. Every child deserves a qualified teacher, and so we really need investment from government.
A lot of your members as well, the teachers who'll be working in the schools, they're sort of on the front line for seeing children who might be experiencing parents who have, say, in work poverty. Are they reporting any of that?
This is probably the number one concern of our members, actually, is the rocketing levels of child poverty. On this government's watch, we've seen it rise to 4.3 million children, 10 children in a class of 30 living in poverty. And of course, in the pandemic, we looked into children's homes via the Zooms call and, saw lots and lots of deprivation. We absolutely need to see a commitment from government to lift the two-child benefit cap. That would lift 250,000 children out of deep poverty and 850,000 out of less deep poverty. A commitment to universal free school meals, because the fact of the matter is hungry children just can't learn.
And Sadiq Khan has obviously just implemented this in London. Yeah. I know you're very fresh in the job, but do you think that you'll be putting pressure on Keir Starmer on the two-child benefit cap and on free school meals?
Yeah, I mean, we would like to see Keir Starmer commit to a new deal for our children in which the benefit cap for 2 children is lifted, in which universal free school meals are rolled out. In fact, we really do commend Sadiq Khan on the work that he's done. And the fact of the matter is, both policies are small change in terms of government spending, about 1.3 billion each. I mean, that is not a huge spending commitment from a Labour government to invest in the future of our society, our economy, and invest in children.
So what would you say to the perhaps more right-wing tabloids that might argue teachers should get back to work because they weren't there during the pandemic and the children have suffered enough?
Well, of course, schools never closed during the pandemic. We were always open for the most vulnerable and key worker children. But again, it was a failure from this government to invest in continuity of education. We were raising the alarm, asking for class sizes to be reduced, to invest in ventilation so transmission was reduced. Again, it's the right-wing press blaming schools, blaming head teachers for the government's failings.